I don't think it can be the most significant, but it can certainly be one of the most unedifying, because I think there's a way to operate. This is an English league. I'm not suggesting that English ways of operating are always the best principles, but you're playing within the confines of an English league. You've joined it. You've invested money for your own motivations, and what this shows me that a lot of it is not really based upon sport. It's a bit based upon doing precisely what you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, and using sport as the vehicle for that. You join a members club, and rather than deal with the position, and there are various nuances to this. There are amendments to this particular associated party transaction that they don't like, which is the changing of rules around players being transferred between clubs that are owned and closing the loopholes. Like you do with everything. Everything evolves. When Chelsea came in, there was no governance. 2008, the governance started to sophisticate because of the lessons that they knew. Man City have changed the game, so the governance keeps on changing and evolving as the sport moves through the gears and the globalisation changes the direction of what people have to experience. What you don't do is you don't sue the league that you play in, and you don't sue the other clubs.
So why are they doing it?
Because they do what they want, and that's how they operate. It's one thing potentially being found out cheating. It's another thing trying to bully the headmaster when you've been found out. I think it's an outrageous way to behave. I think it gives you an indication of how certain... This is what happens when you let foxes in the hen house.
Big statement there from Simon Jordan. Want to get your views, want to get your opinions on this. The trial has started, the hearing more so than a trial has started. And what hasn't been broadcast maybe as much as it should have been is the situation surrounding it. So it is in a secret location or an undisclosed location, and there is no journalist access. So whether there are going to be small leaks, small pieces of information coming out over the next 2 weeks is anybody's guess, but there's no journalists and it's a secret location. Now, I want to be very fair. I've tweeted about this earlier on today. Should it be a bit more public, considering the extreme public interest within this? This isn't just about the teams, it's about the fans, about the businesses that surround those football clubs. This has got huge ramifications for the country, football fans, etc. It is typical for these types of hearings to be private. So let's have it right. This isn't Man City forcing privacy in what would normally be a very open situation. We need to be balanced in this. But the question remains, for both City and everybody else's sake, should this be a bit more public? There are some that will feel that City might do a bit of an underhand tactic. There are some that there are City fans that feel that they might be hard done by and the public isn't aware of it. So for everybody's sake, should this play out a little bit more in the public domain? And what did you make of what Simon Jordan just said there? This is what happens when you let the foxes into the hen house.
This is what happens when you let nation states and you let private equity and hedge funds have their ways. There's something more pure about the American way of doing things, but they're cowardly, Chelsea, because I suspect
I wouldn't say there's anything more pure about the way American owners have typically run football clubs. What the Glazers did, Hicks and Gillette, so far Clearlake and Todd Bowley haven't done a particularly great job at Chelsea. I wouldn't say it's purer in any sense of the word.
Significant abstaining from the vote, so I understand. Primarily, I suspect, because a large proportion of Clearlake's money comes from the Middle East. So I would imagine that's the reasons why they've
Great point.
abstained.
Yeah.
I think it's poor. I think it's a poor way to operate. I think it's bullying. I think it shows them as the demagogues that they are. And I think it's nothing to do with football. And all the Man City fans can jump up and down and tell us it's all about bias. This is not the way you operate. This is not how football... What is football becoming? And be careful what we're wishing for, because these sort of things change the direction. There's millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds being spent on legal fees by both sides. I'm interested to see whether £200 million I've been made aware or introduced to the idea that Man City have been spending on legal fees. I wonder where that's been accounted for, because I don't see it appearing in Man City's accounts.
Right.
I mean, what's really interesting, what's being said here, I see it from both sides. I think there has to be a situation where you can challenge the rules. But you have that within the process of the league in terms of the 2/3 majority. The problem that's now happened that because City have sued the Premier League, if they win, it opens up the possibility of all the billionaire owners, some of which have even more money than City's owners, suing the league to get what they want. That could lead to an absolute annihilation of the league. Surely we can all sit. Surely we can all agree on that this could open up Pandora's box. Or am I being too harsh there? Give me your thoughts and feelings.
Right. So that'll be interesting to see how they're accounting for that sort of stuff. I think it's really, really poor form.
Well, if there is something wrong with the rules, or the Premier League have got something wrong, let's just go down that line. What
it's a great question, because if City feel hard done by, there has to be recourse.
would be the more...
Well, you have a democratic process. When they come out with these ridiculous tropes that I don't even think they believe, I mean, it almost drops your drawer on the floor when they turn around and come out with the tyranny of the majority. You mean democracy?
I can't argue with that point. I can't argue with that point, because Man City have used that same democratic process to get other rules through that they like. That bit I stand by. That's 100% correct.
What would you rather have then? The tyranny of the minority? You'd be the one person in the room that dictates the nature of the beast.
But that's almost what could happen here if City win. And then you've got Newcastle with even more money. You've got Man United that have got new owners that are just coming in, who Ineos, the company that have bought them, is worth like 60 odd billion. I'm sure that's more money than the Premier League have got. All of our owners have more money than the Premier League have got. We could all now do this. And you could find this rule go through, City get what they want, and then another club, countersues and gets better lawyers, and they win this time, and the rules get changed again. How this could end up leading to a consistent sort of kangaroo court approach, as opposed to playing things out on the pitch. That's so true. I never even thought about it from that perspective.
Yeah, I think there should be changes, Jim. I think the voting rules are wrong.
But how would that work?
Well, then you put it through to a democratic process, like Wolves tried to do to get rid of VAR.
Well, you're right, Simon.
But also, Jim, I would also say to you, how many rules are we saying that are potentially illegal in football? Use the word legality. Unenforceable is the thing I would suggest. I would suggest that fining players for coming to work late is probably illegal. I would suggest that perhaps transfer windows might be challenged under European law for restriction of trade. I would imagine there's a lot of internal things inside the industry that might not pass the sniff test. But the way that you change things is you campaign and you vote and you utilise the democratic process. You don't sue people. That shows you that you're not interested in football. Well, you're interested in yourselves.
City claim that their Abu Dhabi owners are victims of discrimination, and the rules around associated party transactions amount to a tyranny of the majority.
Which is what I just said.
So that's exactly what you've just said. So in other words, they're acting upon it now because they say the regulation is getting tighter. This is the chairman, Khaldoon Al-Mubarak of Manchester City.
I think the Premier League got to where it is today by being the most competitive league. So I hope there's a bit more sensibility in regulating. Always a balanced approach is good from all the leagues, be it in England or the rest of Europe. I think you won't see the same level as we've seen in the past years because of the level of regulations that have come to place over the last 12 months. The level of maneuverability that was in place before that allowed teams to do what they were able to do in the past, I think is much more restricted this year, and that's going to be reflected, I believe, this summer.
The thing is, though, he's right, it is going to be more restrictive, but as Simon's already alluded to, and this is correct, as the landscape changes, so do rules and regulations and governance. The amount of money being spent in football 25 years ago paled into insignificance now. And there were multiple local millionaires that could have got a club out of a bad situation. Then you had the multimillionaires and the billionaires. With the amount of money now being spent, if any of these clubs get into trouble with the debts that could be raised, and when I say debts, I'm talking about contracts you offer players and some, there is no one to bail them out. The fact that this is being ignored is staggering to me.
Simon, what do you look at City and you look at what they're doing, and this is day one of it. It starts today. What are they doing here in your view?
I think they're masquerading under the auspice of suggesting it's competitivity, rather than really looking at the parameters of what they want to do, which is precisely what they want to do when they want to do. I make the observations, I use my words carefully about the observations about they've been caught potentially cheating. And now they're compounding that by suggesting that ultimately they want to change the framework in which they operate. This is not about sport. It never has been about sport. And anyone thinks that it is masquerading or this masquerading nonsense. This is about challenging our society. This is the reasons why states aren't allowed to buy national newspapers in this country, because of the influence that they would have and the direction of travel that they would go in. It is wrong. It is morally wrong. in terms of your play. I mean, if I were in the Premier League, I know you can't do this because I don't think the rules would lend itself to it. I would look towards expelling them. I think their behaviour is reprehensible.
How many people agree with that? If City are unsuccessful, or even if they are successful, would you support, whether it's 10, 15, 19 other clubs coming together to expel Manchester City? Personally, I wouldn't support that notion. As of right now, with the information that's at hand to us, I would not support that notion. But I want to get your views and opinions. There's some big things been said here by Simon Jordan, some of which I don't agree with, some of which I certainly do agree with. Do you believe this is not about sport and about rich and powerful people being able to do whatever it is they want, whenever they want, and they don't get their way, they'll sue and potentially ruin the league for everybody? Or do you believe it is about sport and this will create more competition, more freedoms, more competitiveness within the Premier League? How do you see it? How do you read it? Leave us your comments below, please. It's always important to us to hear what you think and feel. You're more important than me. You're more important than anyone we feature. Your opinions matter most. Until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you soon. Peace.